Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube on this Monday night after the Rams' very matter-of-fact and rather easy victory over the Vikings. And what a crash and burn for the Vikings. Last week in Detroit, this week in Arizona, cannot protect their quarterback. Their quarterback took a big step backwards, held the ball too long, made mistakes. And the Rams, who came out, moved the ball with a brilliant first drive, scored on their second drive, and then broke the game open with a sack and fumble, which was returned for a touchdown. And the game was pretty much over. I mean, they sacked Sam 9 times. Minnesota, the last 2 weeks, could not protect their quarterback. I think part of it, too, is Sam holds the ball too long. Secondly, I think they ran their routes way too deep, considering their lack of pass protection. Um, Give the Rams credit, everything they went through this week. They looked good early. They didn't have to do a darn thing in the second half. It was 24-3 at half. The game was over. They put the ball in the deep freeze in the second half. I mean, the game was completely over. Not much of a game. Very tough finish for the Vikings, who won 14 games, played for the number one seed, played terribly in Detroit, and followed it up with another terrible effort. It's also going to cast a lot of shadows on Sam. Sam Darnold had a great year. He won 14 games. He threw 35 touchdown passes. But people are going to look at these last 2 games and say he's not your quarterback of the future. We'll see whether he is somewhere else next year and they set it up for McCarthy, or they bring Sam back. We'll wait and see how they play that. There'll be a lot of debate over that in the next couple of months. So we'll see how that plays out. The Rams move on. The one thing you know about the Rams is they have a quarterback who knows how to play in a big spot. They have playmakers at wide receiver and running back. They have a great player in Nakua at wide receiver. They're dangerous and they are extremely well coached. Now, they are not as good on the road. Now, this was not a home game, but it wasn't a road game either. They're going to have a tough time in Philadelphia. And let's be honest, the conventional wisdom on Divisional Playoff Sunday is going to be that the 4 teams standing are going to be the Lions, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the survivor of the Classic, which will be played Sunday evening between Baltimore and Buffalo. Baltimore has become a 1-point favorite. We will spend a lot of time on this game. Spend some time on it on Wednesday, spend a lot of time on it on Friday. It's a classic. It's a very debatable outcome. It's a game that you can make a case for both quarterbacks, make a case for both teams, make a case for how well Josh Allen and the Bills play at home, make a case for how dominant the running game is and how unique the running game has become and how powerful it is for the Ravens. So lots to talk about there. Now, the other big story today, really the bigger story, is that after telling the Bears they could not talk to McCarthy, the negotiations between McCarthy and Jerry Jones break down to the point that McCarthy is now leaving the Cowboys. So the Cowboy job is open, which is always a big story. McCarthy will land in the league. It's considered right now that the Bears are farther along than they are further along than New Orleans is, but that both New Orleans and Chicago may. I know New Orleans is interested in McCarthy. I think the Bears will at least want to talk to him. I think. I'm not sure about that because they might be a little farther along in their process than we thought. Um, uh, uh, Now, there's a lot of talk about Deion Sanders with the Cowboys. Personally, I still think that's a long shot. I don't have any information. I think that is a risky hire for Jerry on a lot of levels. Listen, Deion was an all-time great player. It looks like he has a knack as a coach. The Dallas Cowboy coach needs to be an experienced hand. It is not a job that you take without experience. It's a very, very tough job to undertake if you are not someone who brings a defined NFL resume into the position. So that should be kept. Now, we'll see what happens. Okay. I'm sure there are players that'll push for Dion. I'm sure there's players that will push against Dion. We'll see how that goes. But it makes for a great story. Um, did this game hurt Flores at all as far as getting a job? I doubt it. It looks now like after Vrabel has gone to New England, which he has, it looks now like you have Mike McCarthy who will get a job. If he doesn't get the Bears, he will get New Orleans. If you ask me to choose one or the other right now, I would choose New Orleans because I think the Bears are further are down the road with other candidates. Um, Jaguars, a lot of talk there about Ben Johnson. We'll see where that goes. We still have a ways to go as far as that process goes. Um, the Jets, I have no inside information on the Jets. You're hearing a lot of Aaron Glenn. We'll see where that goes. I think there's a very good chance that Aaron Glenn and Flores get jobs. I think Mike McCarthy will definitely get a job. You knew Vrabel was going to get a job. You knew he was going to get the patch job once he opened it. Mike McCarthy's going to get a job. He's going to be coaching in the league next year. I think Flores and Aaron Glenn will be coaching in the league next year. I don't know if Ben Johnson will be coaching in the league next year or not. I think Liam Cohen will stay in Tampa for another year. I think they'll pay him to stay there. And Nagy's the other guy who you would think is a serious candidate places. Now, the Notre Dame coach's name has come up now. I don't think he will leave Notre Dame. I think it would have to be a very special offer for him to leave Notre Dame. Who will the Cowboys talk to? Other than that, there's a couple of the young coordinators that Jerry's had his eye on. I've heard that. I know Kellen Moore's name's going to come up. I don't think Kellen Moore is going to get the Cowboy job. I just don't. That's just me. I'm not saying I know anything because I don't know what's going to happen, but I just don't see him getting the Cowboy job. But it's going to be very interesting now because once you have, the Jets Open creates some buzz. Cowboys Open creates an enormous amount of buzz. The Bears Open creates buzz. Those are jobs that are a big deal. And it'll be very interesting to see which way this goes as far as the situation. So we'll see what happens. It's 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 going to take a little while. First of all, these guys have to go through the Rooney process for jobs that just open. All right, I mean that's just the way it is. That has to happen. I think you have to let these things unfold, but I just think that the Dion thing is just getting ahead of itself right now. We'll see what happens. I mean, is Bill Belichick going to get involved in one of these jobs? I don't know. I would always think that is until everything is filled, you have to at least always think in the back of their mind. And you still have the Raiders to deal with too. That this is still a possibility. The Eagles, as I said to you yesterday, would be a 6 or 7 point favorite. They're a 6 point favorite against the Rams. The Rams are extremely well coached. They're not great on the road. They will have trouble with the physical. Although their line is growing up quickly and got 9 sacks tonight, and did a good job against the run. This is a different deal playing in Philly and playing against that Philly offensive line and against Barkley and against Hurts. This is a completely different deal. That there's a level of physicality and an overpowering nature to what the Eagles do in that regard. That will be a very tough game to win. You have to have a lot of respect for McVay. He's a tremendous coach. And remember, this team was a week away from trading Cooper Kupp. There was talk of them trading their quarterback, of trading Cooper Kupp, of unloading their players, and then they turned it completely around. It just shows you what can happen in a season. And here they are now in the final 8. Looking to go to a title game. Now, I would be stunned if either the Lions or the Chiefs lose in this round. I do not think the Texans, despite their defensive prowess last week, I do not think the Texans are going to beat Kansas City and Kansas City. This is a whole different deal when you're going up against greats in Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones. These are all-time greats. These aren't okay players. These are legendary figures in this league. Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. Chris Jones is a Hall of Famer on roller skates. Mahomes and Andy Reid will be all-time greats. This is a different deal. Winning there against that level of opponent is a whole different situation. So I would be now. The other game is a toss-up. We know that. You might like Baltimore. You might like Buffalo. If you like Buffalo, I think you like Buffalo because they're playing home. If this game was in Baltimore, I think most of the country would like Baltimore. And I think Baltimore would be a solid favorite. This game's in Buffalo, and Buffalo does not lose a lot at home. We know that. So that's what makes this game. But Baltimore's favorite, and Baltimore is a team that, without any question, can win this whole thing this year. I don't think there's any question about that. Stopping them is going to take a lot. They have something built up right now that is overpowering in its performance. You can see it coming. And their defense has gotten better and better, but their offense is a machine. Even without Flowers, it is a machine because he can now throw the ball down the field. He can throw the ball with touch. He can throw the ball with accuracy. He can run and turn any play into a touchdown. And he has next to him one of the great running backs in the history of the sport. And together, they are lethal and are going to just take an incredible. And you saw Henry. They congratulated him. He said, got more games to play. So you know what they're thinking. And Jackson has something to prove. Not that Allen doesn't have something to prove. Jackson has more to prove because he's had tougher times in the playoffs. Yeah, it took a big step in the right direction the other night. This is the step. And then Kansas City will provide the platform. So I can't wait Sunday at 6:30 for that game. That is an all-time classic. Let's be honest. This round of football was not good. Was not compelling. The game last night, you knew it was going to be a fun game. I feel bad for Baker Mayfield because he did a lot this year. For him to have that exchange fumble, and like I said, I'm not sure that I didn't check after the game. I'm not sure if he wanted to take that or take it back or hand it off. I'm not sure. But to have that happen where it did, it was just crushing. It really was. And then when they could have scored a touchdown, they botched the play and had to kick a field goal. Very tough. I felt for Tampa. I really did. Now, Washington's a great story. And Daniel winning a playoff game in his first year and winning a playoff game on the road in his first year. And now going to play, Houston, going to play with house money. Washington going to play with house money. The Rams going to play with house money. Yes, they have a quarterback who's a Super Bowl winner. They have a quarterback who's a veteran guy, but they're going to play with house money. Nobody expected them there. And then the two big teams that are trying to see if they can do what needs to be done. Win this game. Go to Kansas City and win. And then go to the Super Bowl and win. And let's be honest. If you get the Lions in the Super Bowl, which I think is a very strong possibility. It's not a given because of their defense, but it's a strong possibility. And you get them against Kansas City, Baltimore, or Buffalo. You got a great game. Great game. Great game. Could you imagine, like, Kansas City, Detroit? First of all, people are going to be in love with Detroit. Anyone who doesn't have a dog in the fight is going to root for Detroit. And why not? The fans have been starved for 50 years, and the coach everyone likes, and the whole thing. And them against Kansas City to stop them from winning another one, or Josh Allen, or Jackson. I mean, it's going to be incredibly compelling. So, if we wind up with Philly at Detroit, and either one of them, Baltimore or Buffalo, can take a pick at Kansas City, what a Final Four we have. Two great title games to set up what is a can't-miss Super Bowl. But I can tell you this, no knock on the Eagles, but the Lions are such a compelling story that they will accentuate the Super Bowl if they can get there. Now, we have 3 big football days coming up: Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 2 games on Saturday. Chiefs and Texans started off, followed by Washington at Detroit. Sunday, Rams at the Eagles early, 6:30, early meaning 2 o'clock, 6:30, Baltimore at Buffalo. Then Monday night, Ohio State, 9-point favorite right now over the Fighting Irish in the championship game in college football. Notre Dame, big underdog to mighty Ohio State, looking for complete vindication. I know Wolverines and Michigan faithful like waiting to print that T-shirt. Michigan, and then the winning score over the national champions. That's what happens when you beat them, which they continue to do. And Michigan had one of the crazy finishes to the season I can ever remember. I mean, 2 straight upset wins as enormous underdogs to Ohio State and Alabama. Impressive. So we got a lot of coaching stuff, and now the big buzz with the Cowboys. And we head towards the weekend that a lot of football fans feel is the favorite weekend of the entire season, the divisional playoff rounds, where you get the 1s and the 2s lining up, and we get into the big games. 2 versus 3 in the AFC, and the Eagles hosting the Rams in the NFC. So, very, very good matchups. Rams are dangerous. They have a quarterback who's won. They have a coach who's won. They have pedigree. They have class. They have big-time players. And their pass rush has really, with Verse and Young, their pass rush has really grown up. 9 sacks tonight against a beleaguered Viking team. All year I didn't believe in the Vikings, and I kept saying I was going to have to apologize if they got it done. Well, they didn't. I feel for Sam. It was a bad finish. And he played badly. I got to be honest. He played badly. Bad finish to a terrific season, a storybook season, but a very, very bad finish. As far as the Jets go, Today, their interim coach, and I want to be charitable here, but can somebody please explain to me what exactly this man talked to the Jets about in the interview? He was about as bad an interim head coach as I have. And listen, he might be the nicest guy in the world. He might be a good position coach. He might even be a decent defensive coordinator. I don't think he's Salah, but he might be a decent defensive coordinator. But let me say this: he was as bad a head coach as you could. I mean, he made Salah look good, and Salah was a bad head coach. That's how bad it was. How would he possibly interview for the job? What would they talk to him about? I mean, I understand you want to give him a courtesy, but I mean, it borders on ridiculous. It really does. I mean, you want to think that they does anybody really believe in that room that they were taking this interview seriously? That he's a candidate after what we saw this year? I wish him well. I hope he gets a good job. It won't be as a head coach, and I don't even know if it'll be as a coordinator. So a lot of jobs still to be filled, a lot of storylines to be written, and 4 big football games coming up this weekend. We'll see you later.